Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Thursday, October 24th, a couple days away from the New York Jets taking on the New England Patriots in Week 8 of the 2024 NFL season. Two teams looking to get back on track. Jets have lost 4 straight. The Patriots have lost 6 in a row. Today is episode 411 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me both on YouTube and all the different audio podcast platforms. With it being Patriots week, today we're joined by a special guest, Patriots analyst Pete Collins. Pete, thanks so much for coming on. How's it going, man?
Thanks for having me. No, it's going good. I'm always looking forward to an AFC East matchup, maybe some potential revenge for the Patriots, although I'm not banking on it.
Yeah, it feels like this is kind of two teams going into this game with not a whole lot of great feeling. Each fan base don't feel great about where each team's at right now this season. So both teams looking for a much needed win. The Jets obviously loses a 4 straight. Patriots, after winning week 1, have lost 6 in a row. So 2 of some of the longest losing streaks right now in football, and both teams looking to get back on track. And there's really no better way to do that than trying to get back on track against a division rival. So I guess we could start there. Just what are your thoughts overall on where the Patriots stand this season? Of course, making a quarterback change 2 weeks ago, week number 3 here of Drake May starting. And then also just an outside perspective on where the Jets stand right now, which is not a good place in an all-in year with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, this season has been a botched disaster from the jump for the New England Patriots. Gerard Mayo, newly appointed head coach, is talking out both sides of his mouth.
Yep.
He has players upset, posting on social media. He traded an unhappy Matthew Judon. He cut an outspoken Rigor. Peppers is on the exempt list for facing domestic assault charges. Barmore complained about the Providence police and later had to walk it back and apologize because he was sort of, mouthing off to the police. He had Javon Baker, rookie wide receiver, commenting negatively about police, had to be reprimanded by head coach Gerard Mayo. So the optics here stink for the New England Patriots. Nothing's really looking good. And then you have, then you have Gerard Mayo calling out his team as soft. And I know we'll get into some more of those comments later, but the head coach calling out his team and then having to walk it back, similar to when in the offseason he said we're going to burn some cash. Next day, he goes on the radio, walks it back. Too much saying things, walking them back. Players kind of doing whatever they want. KJ Osborne caught a touchdown, and somehow that was negative. He posted his text exchange with his agent, who was like, you were told you weren't going to play. You didn't practice all week. Look at you go, champ. And it's like more negative for the New England Patriots. We have Booty, who's an actual good wide receiver out of LSU, saying the only reason he's getting these balls thrown to him is because he had to go to the offensive coordinator and ask for it, and then got it and showed the offensive coordinator, look, maybe you should script more of this. So not a good look when your wide receivers is like, don't even give them credit. Give me the credit. I'm the one who asked for it. Mayo's a former linebacker, and one of our worst units on this team is the linebacking unit. Embarrassing when you're looking at it. A lot of people are calling for Mayo to be fired already, or maybe if not him, one of the coordinators to be fired already. It's that bad here in New England. And this is coming off of a season where our yards per carry was 3.3, the league's best. And Bill Belichick noted that on the Pat McAfee podcast not too long ago. He was saying, we were the best and now they're one of the worst. And it's true. Bill Belichick is spot on when he says that. I'm not too sure what changed. A lot of people will be like, well, Barmore isn't playing, or you lost Judon, or, they come to me with these injuries. Peppers, Bentley, the middle linebacker. And I say, yeah, but Barmore didn't break out till the second half. You have Marcus Jones and Christian Gonzalez coming back with your corners, which obviously helps out your pass rush if you're locking down wide receivers, right? So I think there's a lot to be said on both sides, but the bottom line is the rush defense completely deteriorated. The pass defense has regressed. Our offense, if you could even say it's regressed off last year, because it was the worst last year, it's like still the worst, although we have hope. We have Drake May, and I think that is the bottom line of the New England Patriots season. All that mess I just talked about can simply be erased with Drake May, and I think that's how a lot of fans feel right now, is thankful that Drake May is providing some life to this offense.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a much needed spark for them. And you mentioned Gerard Mayo and all the issues. Kind of feels like maybe a little in over his head in year 1 as a head coach. You talked about some calling for him to be fired already in just year 1. The soft comments were huge after the Jacksonville loss in London. That caught, a firestorm from the media. He's walked them back. Yesterday in his press conference, talked about how we're on to the Jets. They're not focused on that. Some of the players spoke on it. How, much do you think those soft comments affect the locker room? Where do you stand with Gerard Mayo in terms of lasting the rest of the season beyond 2024? And just your overall thoughts on those comments being made on Sunday.
Yeah, I think the players have less of a problem with it than maybe we do as fans and media and everyone else like watching the optics of it all. I think the players would agree. They might say, yeah, our run
Yeah.
defense is soft. So the coach said so. I think the difference here is like Mayo, maybe just say that to the players in a team meeting. Maybe there's no need to create outcry like this in the media. And a little bit of that is learning on the job. He's a rookie head coach. I brought up Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick would have never said that. He would have never said a lot of things that Gerard Mayo said. And guess what the media would have said about Bill? He doesn't say anything, right? So no matter what you do, you're kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? So, but I think Mayo would do himself a service to take a page out of Bill Belichick's book and talk less to the media and just talk more to his team and say the tough things that he needs to say. Like, you guys are soft against the run. If you're not going to toughen up, you're going to get your doors blown out every single week. That's fair to say as a coach directly to the team. Not a great look when you're doing it to the public, because we're trying to attract free agents. We're trying to like attract players to this team because we can't get anyone to come here right now. We basically re-signed all of our own players in the offseason and couldn't trade for anyone because nobody wants to come here right now. So I think Gerard Mayo needs to make this an attractive place. And part of that is not like, crucifying your team to the media.
Yeah, it's trying to find that perfect balance of holding players accountable, but not also going out publicly and bashing the team in a way, calling them soft. You don't have to go up there and throw the podium or say all these things, but
But hold yourself accountable too, Mayo,
yeah,
right? Like, is part of the run defense not your fault?
yeah, no,
You're a defensive specialist
exactly.
linebackers coach, so it's kind of on you when your defense doesn't do good. Why are you saying the players are soft? Why aren't you saying the way I'm coaching is soft?
Yeah,
It's
100%. And that was
interesting.
always the thing too, just from a Jets perspective. And I was all for the Robert Saleh firing, but the one thing we could always say about Robert Saleh was he had his hands on a top 5 defense over the last 2 seasons, and he was a defensive minded head coach. It would be one thing if his defense was terrible, the offense was terrible, the locker room wasn't good enough, he's not holding players accountable. He did have a top 5 defense. Now, as a coaching job, as a head coach, you're not a defensive coordinator. You've got to be everything. But yeah, it is a good look for Mayo, defensive minded coach, a player that played defense. Obviously, for the Patriots linebacker, like you mentioned, to have the defense struggling is certainly a concern here in year one, only 7 games in. Now, I guess the big positive is Drake May, right? You go with Brissett the first 5 games. May got a little bit of a taste against the Jets on Thursday night when they were getting blown out. Wasn't really a perfect opportunity for a debut. Not really great to just, they threw him in, blowout, didn't do a whole lot. Not really
Terrible
surprising. But the
idea.
last 2 weeks, a lot better. And the offense has been a lot better. The results really have not reflected what Drake May has done. So what have you seen from him, and how optimistic are you in what this guy can do going forward beyond this year as well, once they start to eventually build around him, put more talent around him 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, I was a start Drake May week 1 guy,
Mhm.
and was furious every single week that I saw Jacoby Brissett roll out there because he's absolute garbage. He could basically run a high school football team, in my
Yep.
opinion. He can't throw the ball downfield and is scared to. Like, he doesn't trust his own arm to throw it downfield, and he sees the guy. He's like, I can't get it to him. It just wasn't a good fit at the quarterback. I wanted to see Drake May. A lot of people said he wasn't pro ready. Well, look at the last 2 games. The dude's pro ready. All that narrative was just false and incorrect. And I wish I seen him week 1. Going back to the last time that he played when against the Jets, when you put a rookie quarterback in there, you want to give him a script and you want to give him some
Yeah.
easy offense to work with, and throwing him in a blowout in like the 4th quarter. There's no script. There's no plan. That's just figure it out time. And he didn't exactly figure it out. The first 2 plays, he saw rookie mistakes, right? Almost threw a pick and then got
Yep.
demolished on a QB scramble. Welcome to the NFL is what I called that. So that little scramble there, we ran into the D tackle, I think. But the last 2 weeks, that's what I'm going to focus on. I mean, since 1950, Drake May and Dan Marino are the only 2 quarterbacks with 500 passing yards and 5 touchdown passes in their first 2 starts. Pretty good company to keep.
Yep.
May threw for 243 yards, 3 touchdowns against Houston, one of the top ranked passing defenses in the entire league. And then he followed it up 276 yards and 2 touchdowns last week in London against Jacksonville. So he can become the first rookie quarterback with 240 yards and 2 touchdown passes since 1950 if he does it again versus the Jets. Although I know we'll talk about it, the Jets' pass defense is definitely something that he'll have to worry about this Sunday. They're not a pushover for sure. But Drake May certainly. I think that on the Patriots like game flyer, they called it making history because of these Dan Marino stats that I just threw out your way. But yeah, puns aside, Drake May is doing very good. He's showing the ability to make plays downfield. He's giving May the time to in the pocket is really key. Right now, we have no offensive line and no run game. So as much as I would like to focus on Drake May, how he's able to, see the open receiver before he is open, play with a little bit of anticipation. The way he throws the ball downfield with accuracy, all requires time in the pocket. Play action requires a good run game, right? Deception requires a run game, and he doesn't have a run game right now. It's like it disappeared. As soon as Drake May comes in, the run game leaves. But Drake May has been spectacular, and I could argue that if you had started him week 1, he would be, in consideration for a rookie of the year, an offensive rookie of the year, maybe even top 10 quarterback status. I'm very high on Drake May and have been very high on Drake May since before we drafted him.
Yep. And you mentioned the run game there the last couple of weeks struggling, which is kind of odd because usually it's, you sometimes pass to set up the run. When you have a quarterback that's not very capable of stretching the field, teams tend to stack the box. They won't be afraid of Brissett. You would have expected the run game to probably, if anything, struggle with Brissett as opposed to struggling with May. But why do you feel that is with, Ramondre Stevenson, Antonio Gibson struggling these last couple games? Do you feel it's offensive line? I know the offensive line has been great this year. They've been banged up at points. Just what have you seen from that run game? And really, the Jets' perspective, the run defense this season has been atrocious on so many levels. So it'll be interesting. Something's got to give this week from a struggling run defense perspective to a struggling rushing offense perspective. But what have you seen as to why that unit has slowed down?
I'll tell you why, but first I want to talk about the Jets run defense just because you said it was bad. I might make the counterpoint that it's top 10. It's top 10 in yards per carry, which is, I think, a more important stat than like total yards per game. Yeah. If teams are chasing and they're passing a ton, they give up on the run, and therefore your run stats get a little bit skewed. But the Patriots aren't running the ball well as far as total numbers because, they have to pass the third and fourth quarter. So that's to be considered. But our yards per carry is very low too. And I'd blame it on one thing. It's the offensive line. And then the second thing I would blame it on is Alex Van Pelt's scheme. He likes to run zone run schemes, outside run schemes. And a lot of what that requires is the offensive linemen having perfect execution in their blocking. And we have I think 7 different formations of offensive lines in 7 different games. Yeah. We're swapping people out. When a Patriots play, an offensive lineman gets hurt. That's the joke, right? So when there's no continuity, when all this attrition is setting in with the offensive line, it's very hard to, create a run game that requires the offensive linemen all working in unison with each other. So I think it really comes down to scheme and offensive linemen. I don't think I would blame Stevenson or Gibson for the problems for the run game. Although Gibson was supposed to play second fiddle to Stevenson got benched for fumble injuries and then got hurt and missed the game. So Gibson had to be thrust into the RB1 role where he's really a complementary piece. Although if you go back, I think it was 2001, Gibson had 1,000 yards rushing, so he's no slouch. But Stevenson's the main back here. He should be good to go this week. He played last week. So I'm looking for an improvement from Stevenson, an improvement from the line, an improvement from the scheme from AVP to get the run game going against, I think, my personal opinion, a tough Jets run defense. When we played you last time, you didn't have CJ Mosley. You got CJ Mosley back now. You're averaging top 10 in the league. You're ranked 9th in yards per carry. So I don't know if this is a get right game for the run defense when it comes to the Patriots, although that's what we need.
Yeah. It's just kind of tying it back to the Jets from an offense line perspective. You mentioned the 7 different combos, 7 different weeks. Feels a little similar to last year with the Jets, 13 combos and 17 games up front of the offensive line. So, and really neither unit. Jets offense line has had some struggles at points this year, especially penalties. Patriots obviously as well. I guess just from a wide receiver perspective, there's not been much production really at all there for New England. However, Hunter Henry the last 2 weeks has kind of come through. Feels like he's been one of May's favorite targets, which is always a positive. Tight end kind of being a young rookie quarterback safety blanket. What have you seen from the receiving core and in Hunter Henry and May kind of having a connection here through his first 2 games?
I think a lot of the receiving core really can only be evaluated on a 2-game basis. If you're the quarterback, Jacoby Brissett prior, if he refuses to throw the ball, it's going to affect your wide receivers. And so a lot of my focus when Jacoby Brissett was in was looking, are these guys getting open? I don't care. The quarterback can't throw it to them. I know that. But are they getting open when we have a good quarterback in there? Will they get the ball? And my answer to that question was yes, they are getting open. And when we do have a good quarterback, they will be getting the ball. I think that's proven true. You have Osborne caught a touchdown. That's a wide receiver. Booty's getting some action. He caught a deep ball on his first pass. That's a wide receiver. Polk has had drop issues. Jalen Polk, our second round pick, he's been dropping the ball all over the place. And that's another, bring it back to Gerard Mayo. He said he's got mental block issues. Jalen Polk goes online the next day. I don't have mental block issues. Okay, do that on your own time, you two, right? Like go in the locker room and talk about that. Stop doing that out in public. But nonetheless, I'm agreeing with Coach on this one. Polk has some mental block or something going on. He's got stone hands lately, hands like feet. He's dropping everything. I would see him taking a step back until he can prove it in practice that he can catch these things. But until then, you're going to see Demario Douglas, Pop Douglas, who was sick and missed a portion of the game last week, which is why I don't think you saw him on tape a lot last week, but has a solid connection. He caught a touchdown pass, a long touchdown pass from May, and it was interesting enough that he ran the play he caught the touchdown pass on. He ran in the first half and then ran it again in the second half. They just flipped the play on the opposite side, and May kind of just missed them with a rookie mistake in the first half. We saw some video of him talking to his coach on the sideline about how if he just makes one little cut left, he can get him on the inside, and that's exactly how they hit the touchdown play in the very next series in the next quarter. So I think you're seeing that progression of May working with his receivers, finding out what they like, them finding out what he likes. It's getting there for the Patriots wide receivers. But you mentioned Hunter Henry, far and above our best pass catcher on this team. Consistent week to week. Even when Jacoby Brissett was in there, he was looking for Hunter Henry. And I might even add on that Austin Hooper is a solid option because lots of defenses will draw their attention towards Henry, knowing what you and I know. If you and I know it, the Jets know it, right? But Austin Hooper is a guy that they're like, hey, we're going to focus on Henry and put our second guy on Hooper. So I think the Patriots do like to use Hooper because he's a very viable option. And if you're going up against a linebacker, that's a great matchup.
Yeah, definitely something to look for. And I guess just from some of the rookie receivers, some of the young guys, I guess, what are your expectations moving forward for Polk? You mentioned some of the drops. Do you feel this is just kind of some year one stuff? You feel he's going to get better? I was very high on Polk coming out of Washington. He was actually a guy that I thought the Jets could target on day 2. Obviously, they ended up going after and getting Malachi Corley. But what is your thoughts moving forward with Polk and, obviously beyond this year as well?
Yeah, so my problem with Polk is that we knew what his strengths and weaknesses are coming into this year. And one of his strengths was catching the ball, especially in like tight scenarios and like strength at the catch point. This year, what is he doing? He doesn't have strength at the catch point. So what we thought was a pro is not showing up in the NFL. And the weaknesses that we all were well aware of are just still there. Like he didn't get faster, right? He's not running a faster 40 all of a sudden. So like you're still not the fastest deep threat in the world. And you're not strong at the catch point. I'm struggling to find the hope here outside of maybe he just has like 3 weeks of drops and then it's all fine and we forget about this. Like that's very plausible in my mind. So I think the wait and see approach, I would like to see it at practice and then you can do it back in the game. I think he just got given go ahead, you're out there with the first unit week 1. And now we're into the season a good chunk and we're like, maybe we need to take a step back. Maybe we need to put some people ahead of you. Maybe it's Booty Douglas ahead of you and you're third. And maybe we even consider like putting Bourne ahead of you too. And you're the fourth wide receiver because we do pretty much roll with a 4-man rotation. And like who's 4 is really the question. And maybe Polk's 4 from now on.
Yeah. Now I want to move on to the offense line. I know you talked about this a little bit. From the Jets perspective, I'd argue that the Jets statistically defensively they look a lot better statistically than they are actually when you watch them, especially from a pass rushing perspective. Sacks, they're up there and they're the top of the league.
Lowest percent pressure, though.
What was that?
Lowest pressure percentage in the league, though, which I find like a very weird statistic.
Yeah, there's no dominant guy with the Jets up front. Like even Will McDonald, he has 8 sacks this season. He's up within the top of the league. He's been excellent from a sack perspective, but he's not a guy that pops off the chart like a TJ Watt or any of those elite
Sorry,
guys
you're talking
where
defensive line. I thought you were
yeah.
talking about Jets offensive line when I said that pressure comment for the record.
Oh,
Continue.
yeah, no, defensively, like
Yeah.
there's been a couple sacks where like even I go back to San Fran, they had a couple sacks where Purdy was basically down and they touched him. Like there's nobody. Quentin Williams hasn't been very good this season. I'd argue just as a whole, the Jets defense, especially recently, ever since they fired Saleh, Ulbrich, it seems like he's had too much on his plate from a deep trying to call plays, trying to coach, all that stuff. Like it just seems overwhelmed right now. And the defense has taken a very large hit the last 2 weeks. They made Russell Wilson look like prime Russell Wilson when he didn't play since Christmas Eve, and he shows up in week 7 and has the best game he's had probably in like 2 years now, going back to Seattle because Denver was a disaster. But they do get Hassan Reddick back this week. I have no clue what to expect. I could not be less excited for Hassan Reddick coming back for this team. It feels like it's 7 weeks too late at this point with the holdout. But I guess just the Jets did have success against New England last time, 7 sacks on Thursday night, week 3, the last time they won a game. I guess just what are your expectations on how this offensive line matches up against this defensive line, which has been pass rush very, very underwhelming this season?
Yeah, this is actually one of I think the key matchups in this game is the pass rush versus the offensive line. Like I said, Drake May's success is really hindering on does he have a pocket or not. He can't
Yeah.
just get demolished and be successful. Yeah, and you have a different play caller. Head coach has been fired in Saleh. So the Jets defense had blitzed on 37.7% of opposing dropbacks since Ulbrich took over as head coach in week 6, which is the 9th highest in the NFL over that span, and a 9% increase in their blitz rate under Saleh. So you're thinking, all right, they're blitzing more. This is great. They're going to get after the quarterback more. Nope. Pressure rate has actually dropped from 40%, third highest, to 37.7%, 14. So you're blitzing more, getting less pressure, which is you're including a 30% pressure rate, which is when blitzing, which is the 7th lowest in the NFL. I think you'll have success. If you want to blitz us, you'll have success this week. So I don't see those percentages decreasing as far as the frequency. The only percentage I see increasing is the success rate because you'll have success blitzing against the Patriots. We don't do a good job in picking up the blitz. We don't do a good job in picking up 4-man pressures. You could simulated pressure us, and you'll probably get after us. That's probably good enough. That's what Jacksonville likes to do. A lot of simulated pressures, rush 4, still get to the quarterback. So that's definitely something that I'll be paying attention to in this game, as the Patriots have allowed a league high 46.5% pressure rate this season, including 58% pressure rate when getting blitz, which is the 2nd highest. You guys like the blitz a lot. We stink against the blitz. The blitz should work against the Patriots this week.
Yeah, now I want to, and that is something with the Jets that it felt like as the season went on, they started to blitz a little bit more because under Ulbrich, previous as the play caller over the last couple seasons, they never were a very high blitzing team. They were able to just rush 4. I think this year you've seen a little bit more because rushing 4 has not been good enough. They just don't have the guys up front. They got rid of Quentin Jefferson, Bryce Huff left, JFM. They traded for a bag of chips, which was completely ridiculous to give him away. Good locker room guy, could play inside, could play outside. So I think that's where definitely where the blitzes have come from is they haven't been able to just get home with 4 because of they've got 3 UDFAs front. Tack McKinley, they've got a guy that's been a journeyman, so it's not the same. Quinnen hasn't done what he usually does. He's getting paid a ton to not do a whole lot. People want to sit here and say, oh, he's getting double teamed, all this. Well, if you want to be an elite defensive tackle, you fight through double teams. Dexter Lawrence crosstown with the Giants, double teamed all the time. He's been one of the elite players from an interior perspective. Same thing with Chris Jones. Quentin Williams, very disappointing this season. So that's where the blitzing has definitely come from. Now I want to move on to the Patriots defense. You mentioned some of the struggles there, right? Gerard Mayo, defensive-minded coach, not a very good look from a defensive-minded head coach to have the defense struggling. Just where do you feel this defense stands? Do you see any improvement in sight? You talked about, Jabril Peppers was a pretty big loss. Off the field problem is never what you want to see. Just what have you feel been the biggest reason for why this defense is where it is?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a litany of issues when it
Yep.
comes to this defense. Run defense has been very poor, which we already touched on, was great last year and is very poor this year. And I should mention that there have been some key injuries here. Um, Bentley up the middle has been key, and he was replaced by Raekwon McMillan, who has already been benched for undrafted free agent Christian Ellis. So that kind of tells you where we're at when it comes to the middle linebacker position and stopping the run. It's been a struggle. Um, Add on, Barmore has blood clots. Easier clog it up the center defensive tackle. Although we do have a solid replacement in Godshaw, but you really would like Godshaw and Barmore to be on the field instead of Godshaw and somebody else who, insert player name here. So
Mhm.
that has been a struggle with the injuries up front. Although I think any good football team knows they're going to have injuries to deal with and then plug plays, coaches, and overcomes. That's what they're not doing. They're not plug playing, coaching, and overcoming. DeMarcus Covington, the defensive coordinator, got on the stand today, talked about Bill Belichick's criticism, said, I got to own it. He said, he didn't say anything negative. He said all the right things. Mayo should take some notes, right? He's like, I respect Bill. Bill was my coach. I won Super Bowls with Bill. I lost Super Bowls with Bill. He taught me a lot. I respect what he has to say. The run defense needs to be better. I own that. I need to make it better, right? So he's owning that the run defense. Additionally, the pass defense has gotten worse too. This is with the addition of Marcus Jones and Christian Gonzalez, who were hurt last year, right? So you figured it would get better. Again, I'm wondering if you just have a new play caller on defense, you have a new rookie head coach, everything's new in the building, and you struggle because it's all new. I think that's a huge factor here. A lot of the players are the same. Some have been hurt, and you have brand new head coaches. So that's the emotional side of things. But Christian Gonzalez, who I mentioned, he's like a lockdown man corner. He's struggled the past 2 weeks and struggled of being like a top 5 cornerback in the NFL. Like he hasn't struggled being like, a regular average
Yep.
Joe cornerback. But as far as like lock that guy down, he hasn't been necessarily doing that against Diggs and Brian Thomas. They found success. They found the end zone. And this week I'm interested to see that matchup with Garrett Wilson, or maybe Devontae Adams. I don't know. I'm assuming it's Garrett Wilson, but that's what I hope he matches up against, right? But he doesn't like stay locked on a guy the whole time, even though he is the corner in the NFL that does stay on the guy the most. Like 70% of the time, he'll line up out wide against your number one corner.
Yeah.
But 30% of the time, he's not. So that's when you would see him cover in Adams. I think the defense just has so many different issues here. I can't really pick one. Peppers being out, Barmore being out, Bentley being out, all new coaches. Pick one of those 4.
Yeah. Now I am curious. I want to get to Gonzalez, obviously first round pick. What is, you mentioned he hasn't been like elite top 5, but what is your
Past 2 weeks, he
expect?
hasn't been elite top 5.
Yeah.
The first part of the season, elite.
Yeah. And last year too showed some flashes in what I think
Yep.
he played, was it 4 games?
You got injured in week 4. He played
Yeah.
like 3.5 games. Yep.
Yeah. Looked very good. What is your ceiling, I guess, for him? From,
Best cornerback in the league.
yeah.
Yeah, you could be the best cornerback in the entire league. Yep. For sure. That's his ceiling.
Mhm.
No, you can't go higher than that. Right. So
Yeah.
I think the ceiling, whatever the add a cliche here, but yeah,
Yeah.
he could be the number one quarterback in the NFL.
And I want to shift over to the defense line a little bit. Keon White was a guy that I actually highlighted when the Jets
Yep.
first played the Patriots because he had 4 sacks through 2 games. He was on like this crazy pace to just dominate. Like when you calculated it across the 17 game slate, he was on pace to like have like a 50 sack season or whatever. Was it just kind of 2 hot weeks? I mean, this was a guy that I know last year only had, I believe it was 1 sack, and I believe he played 16 games, I believe it was.
He just wasn't utilized.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they just didn't use him.
yeah, and so just this year, was it just 2 hot weeks? Is he a guy that's kind of where does that stand? Because I remember going into the game, Keon White was a guy I'm like, Tyron Smith, both tackles, someone to look for, because at that time he was coming out of the gates red hot. What has kind of caused him to slow down a little bit? Is it rotation? Is it just he got on like a Linsanity run for 2 weeks? What was that all about?
Yeah, I mean the first 2 weeks he was super hot, right? And I
Yeah.
think a lot of that had to do with last year. Nobody was like expecting him to be an absolute force to be
Yeah.
reckoned with, and he put it on tape, and they were like, "All right, it's on tape. You got to do something about this guy." They really don't have anyone else let's stop him. And that's kind of, you just got some more attention from the offensive line.
Yeah.
I'm cool if he's eating up double teams, right? That opens up opportunities for maybe Uche to speed rush off the other side. You know, all the other side effects of having a double team right on one side. But his pressures continued to stay high. I think he had a drop off the past is what I would say. So hot the first 2 weeks, like scorching hot.
Yeah.
Maintained his pressures, but his sack numbers dropped off. And as you mentioned, sacks, I don't know, you're a baseball guy. It's like wins for a pitcher. It's
Yeah.
like if your offense hit 20 home runs that game, you're probably going to win as the pitcher, right? Like if you're getting in the if other side is drawing double teams, you might get into the quarterback's face a little bit more, right? Like a lot of it is situational, but pressures, right? And time to pressure. He's very quick to getting off the line. He's very quick to get in the quarterback's face. He applies pressure, the highest amongst the New England Patriots. Although, to your point, has had a significant drop off the past 3 weeks. His snaps declined last week. And a lot of that, I think, had to do with 2 back-to-back penalties against the Texans, this boneheaded penalties, and then not being very good against the run. If you're an end, you really need to set the contain, and not just against the running backs, against quarterback scrambles, right? Too often when he's on the end uncontained, does he go inside and allow a quarterback scramble? In fact, I think Aaron Rodgers had like a season high rushing against us. It was like 18 yards, but still, you don't want to have that happen. There's lots of Brock Purdy the following week. Not the following week. Yeah, it was the following week. We played the 49ers after the Jets. He, I think, completed like 3/4 of his passing yards on the rollout. Again, extending plays on his feet to the outside where Keon White needs to be containing him. So I think a little bit of it was fundamentals that the coaching staff noticed Keon wasn't nailing and reduced his snap count slightly off of that. And as a result, has not had much success, or hasn't had as much success as he did the first 2 weeks. As you noted, I think 4 sacks the first 2 weeks. How many sacks does he have right now? 4.
Yeah. And you make a good point about sacks. Yeah, they're not everything. I mean, there's a lot of times I've seen this, a lot of times too with the Jets this year. That's been some of the ways they've gone their sacks. Quarterback kind of just goes down, you touch them, and it's a sack.
Yep.
So it's a good comparison with wins in baseball. And 2, same thing. Like you could do all the work as a pitcher, offense doesn't do anything. You get handed a loss or no decision. You could do all the work as a defensive lineman, an edge rusher, get to the quarterback. You hit him, he bounces off of it, and another guy just comes in and wraps him up. So definitely on board with that. But just to kind of, I guess, start to wrap things up here, what are any underrated guys, some X factors you feel, and any other matchups to watch that you're looking for in this game, both offensively and defensively?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I'm gonna circle back. I don't think I gave Drake May enough of his props. He's only played two and a quarter games, right? I'm not even counting the quarter. 2 games, and he's been elite. I think that one thing you'll want to look for is how he extends plays with his feet. He will look to run the ball, but also look to throw on the run, and how the offensive line gels with that. You have Vidarian Lowe, who might come in back at left tackle, but if not, watch what combo we have starting at offensive line. We've used Onwenu, one of our best offensive linemen, as a right tackle, but he's better fit at right guard. So where does Onwenu play? Does he play right tackle or right guard? And who plays the opposite position? That would be something I would look for as far as players that we didn't talk about yet. Booty, I've mentioned a couple times. You might have not know who he is. He gambled on sports, got suspended, got that whole drama issue out of LSU. So this is sort of his rookie year, is kind of the point that I'm making. Had to ask for the ball from his offensive coordinator, but he's here now. And he's catching touchdown passes and deep passes. So Booty's another guy. You're like, who's this guy named Booty? And that is how you say it. I'm not botching his name, so feel free to call him Booty because that is his name. So that's what I would pay attention to. I mentioned Austin Hooper, who doesn't get a lot of attention because of Hunter Henry. He'd be another matchup. That's on offense. On defense, a player not so much matchup to watch to get to be fearful of as a Jets fan, but maybe happy about is Jelani Tavai. Can we swear on this podcast?
Yeah, if you want to.
He's hot ass. He is absolute ass. And I know it's not really a swear, so you can get away with it, right? But yeah, he's been terrible, Tavai. He's supposed to be one of your main linebackers, and he's been really awful. He leads the team or one of the top leaders in tackles, but he's also the team leader in missed tackles too. So he's just getting the second most snaps on the team for what reason? I'm not too sure. If you're out there a ton, you're going to get tackles. which I guess will lead to missed tackles too. But
Yeah.
you can just see he's not good in space.
Yeah.
Once he's in a contained small area, he's good. He's very good. But once he has space, he'll get juked. So maybe a potential to see some ankles get broken with Tavai there. I know Brees Hall could use a little boost, and maybe he could get it running against Tavai.
The run game.
Marte Mapu, he would be the one I would throw out for defense. He's kind of like a hybrid linebacker safety, which really allows us to play nickel in a unique way because he can slot in and cover a person. He can slide into the box. He can. Last week we had Duggar and single high safety and Mapu playing linebacker, but then we blitzed Duggar and brought Mapu back as the single high safety. We outsmarted ourselves to turn it into a touchdown, but the play design was there to be noticed that Mapu can drop back into that single high safety, run defense as a linebacker, very versatile. So look for Mapu. I think he wears number 15, so kind of a unique number. Look for Mapu out there making plays. In the secondary more so now because Peppers is out, so him and Duggar sort of roam the top of the field.
Yeah, and you mentioned with the linebackers and their struggles, this could be a game that the Jets have to get the run game going. It's been non-existent. Brees Hall last week, very good from a receiving perspective. Led the team receiving yards, had over 100 last week, was excellent, but the run game's been pathetic. Braylon Allen's done some good things, but all in all, it hasn't been good. The Jets, when they trail, obviously they've required to pass a lot more. Rodgers in the Minnesota game, I think, had like 54 attempts, so hopefully if they can pick up a lead, they've got to find a way to get the run game going because it's been pathetic. Brees Hall and Braylon Allen are too good to have 30 or 40 yards of rushing offense a week. Like they've got to figure out a way to get the run game figured out. And it's taken 7 weeks, and I can't say I have a whole lot of faith in the Jets offensive staff to get it figured out because it's just they're incompetent. A lot of that's demote the play caller, bring up Downing. The offenses looked better at some points, but still not good enough. You mentioned Rodgers, scrambling looked good on week 3 against New England, rolling out. He's aged like 10 years since that point. He was like 30 in that game. Now he's actually 40 coming off a torn Achilles. He looks like it. Dealing with hamstring, knee, ankle. Just go down the list. He's dealing with
like
it
40 though. Who does he think he is? You think he Brady or something? He could just switch teams and win a Super Bowl? It's
He
not that
probably
easy,
did.
buddy.
It was funny. I was reading an article the other day. This, like the whole Rodgers issues right now, makes Brady's Super Bowl win with Tampa so much more impressive because now it just everybody now thinks they can do it. And I don't know. I was so high on Rodgers. I was so fired up. I was at pretty much every camp practice this year. Him and Garrett Wilson were amazing. They were awesome. I bought back in, and I said it after last year. I was so disappointed in last season. I was so drained from last year. I would have fired Saleh. I would have blew up the whole staff, even if it meant losing Rodgers, because to me, the whole Rodgers timeline got all screwed up the minute he went down 4 plays in. Like he just got all screwed up at his age, coming off an Achilles. You knew it in the back of your mind, as much as I believed, like you knew it's the Jets. He's not gonna be the same guy. And the interceptions have been up. Not all of it's his fault, but 7 picks through 7 games is not
He has
anywhere near
6 in
his
the
game.
past 3.
Yeah. And last week, the interception that he threw 2 to Beanie Bishop, the one wasn't his fault. The Garrett Wilson off his chest was terrible. But the one before halftime was awful. And that's been something that the Jets have struggled with. They struggle to close out halves. They struggle to start halves. And that pick was the difference between going into halftime 15-6, 18-6, you get a field goal. Heck, maybe you go down and score a touchdown compared to 15-13. You knew it right then and there. Watching the game with my dad, I turned to my dad, minute he threw that pick, I'm like, game's over. They're going to lose this game. And sure enough, they did, 31 unanswered, and here we are 2-5. So been a bumpy road for sure. But I guess to kind of close things out, perfect transition here. What is your score prediction for this one? Which team snaps their losing streak? Or, do we get a tie and neither team snaps their losing streak? Neither team picks up a win and we see a tie on Sunday. I guess nothing. This season has been so crazy. Nothing would surprise me at this point with the Jets. But what do you got in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Jets are a touchdown favorite in this, and yeah, I think that's pretty fair as far as like a line goes. I think the Jets win this game. I think I'll start off by saying that. How much they win it by would be a better question than are they going to win the game? And I think touchdown sounds appropriate, and it's just because of this defense. Like this defense just gets picked apart, and then not having a good run offense and a good offensive line, that means you're doing one thing well, maybe two if you count special teams. But last week we had a punt return for a touchdown, so nope, can't count that. Right? We're just doing one thing well, and it's passing, and that's because we have an elite quarterback, or at least we think we have an elite quarterback. It's been great through 2 weeks, but I think Jets win this game. Jets win by a touchdown. Over under is 41 in this one. I am hammering overs when it comes to the Patriots now that Drake May's in. They're just too low because they're still thinking that we're a Jacoby Brissett run offense for some reason. Patriots will score 20 something points a game, I feel like, at this point, and I'm definitely thinking the Jets are going to score 20 points in this game. So yeah, look for it to, I think, be a high scoring affair according to Vegas. But yeah, Jets win by a touchdown, and you're looking at over 40 points in my opinion.
Yeah, this feels like ideally it feels like hopefully just a get back on track, much needed win for the Jets, and you've got a quick turnaround against Houston on Thursday night, which would be a very, very tough matchup there. But it's funny that this is the first time the Jets are 7-point favorites or over touchdown favorites since 1972. I saw the other day, which is wild, and just brings me back to the whole point of only the Jets could, all these years of the Patriots dominating us, Brady destroying us, all these years of going up to Foxborough late in the season and just getting blown out, which happened a ton. We finally get a chance to sweep the Patriots, and like as a fan, you're 2-5. There's no, like, even if we win this game from a Jet fan perspective, there's still so much work that has to be done.
Like whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it was like, great, we won. We're still 3-5, and we've got Houston and CJ Stroud in 4 days. It's just, but that's the Jets.
The Jets have lost the last 12 games against an AFC East opponent on a losing streak.
Wow.
So as much as we're a get-right team, lost 6 in a row, teams come in, not feeling too good, beat us up, feel better leaving, like Jacksonville, right? At the same time, Jets are a great team for AFC East teams on a losing streak. So if you're losing, play the Jets and you'll get yourself right. So maybe it could be a get-right game for whatever team wins, but I don't think any team is walking into this game going, oh, this is a get-right game. And if the Jets are walking into this game going, hey, we have a short week Thursday, this is an easy win against the Patriots, let's just go mop them up. Let's not exuberate at all so that we can have something left in the tank for Thursday. That's how you get your ass kicked. Yeah. So if that's how they're coming into this game, the Patriots will punch them right in the mouth.
Yeah, it's certainly possible it happens because it's been, 4 straight weeks. It feels like Denver was, 10 days to prepare for Denver. You score 9 points on offense. And just, you have an extra day to prepare for Buffalo, commit all those penalties. You collapse late in the game. Just a lot of problems. But look, both teams look to get back on track. As much as both teams have struggled, it is still an in-division matchup. It's still Jets-Patriots. Still always a lot of, still a big rivalry there between the two teams. Anytime you get, divisional matchup, it's always a tough game. So to close things out, where can everybody find you, all your stuff, YouTube channel, your content, Twitter, all that good stuff?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Yep. And if you want to check out some Patriots comments, you can follow me. My ats are here if you're watching. But if you're listening, it's at Pete_Collins. I'm the host of the Foxborough Fellas podcast. I do that with my co-host, Divish. And you can find our page at Fox Fellas Pod. Again, that's written here right below me if you're watching. We do an episode every Monday night reviewing Sunday night's loss. I just say that a little bit of tongue in cheek because we've been losing every single week. But hopefully one day we can review a win. We got to do that once so far this year in week 1, which was exhilarating. But every Friday we also preview the upcoming matchup, which you'll be joining me tomorrow night for, which I appreciate. And we'll be previewing the Jets matchup, similar how we did here. Giving Jets fans the Patriots perspective. You can come on and join us on Friday and give Jets fans the Patriots fans, the Jets perspective that maybe we're missing something that we just didn't know about. And we do that every Friday. We bring someone on from the opposing team to kind of preview the game and tell us something that we don't know. Right. So you can catch us Mondays and Fridays. We stream live on Twitter from our page, but also from Boston Sports Zone's YouTube page.
Yep. Yeah, definitely check it out. Looking forward to get on there tomorrow night. Should be a lot of fun. So if you're watching this and you want to check it out, 7 Eastern tomorrow, right before Yankees World Series, definitely check it out. Looking forward to that, and should be a good time, and hopefully a good game here on Sunday afternoon. Nice to finally have a Sunday 1:00 game. These primetime games, especially from a content perspective, doing the recaps, you don't get to bed till like 12:31 in the morning. It's nice to finally have normal 1:00 game as opposed to all these primetime games, which NFL fans are, and the NFL is probably regretting putting the Jets on primetime 6 times again this year, but
Hey,
they'll eventually learn from their mistake.
better than our one, and it was against you on Thursday.
Yeah, that is true.
In your home opener. We have 1:00 games every single Sunday. It's not as awesome as you think.
Yeah, it's if you're winning on prime time, it's great. If you're losing on it, that's kind of what it is. Like if you're winning on prime time, it's awesome, it's great. You're losing on prime time, it stinks. You hear from everybody, you hear from all the national fans because everybody's watching.
Yeah.
I still say it. Nothing better in my opinion. And this is probably just because the Jets have sucked for my entire life so far. All they've played is really 1:00 games other than these last 2 seasons. Nothing better to me than a fall afternoon watching, the Jets 1:00. Personally, that's always been me. If they start winning on prime time, I'll probably start to like prime time, but they got to start.
I like the 4:00. The 4:00 window is my favorite. I don't know if you're a red zone guy, but I like red zone from 1 to 4 because you have the most games on in that window. And then there's only like 4 or 5 games on in the 4:00 window. So you're only missing 3 games if your team plays at 4. If I had to pick, I'm picking the 4:00 window.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, everyone's different. And then sometimes you have the, late in the season, you got the Saturday games, which are always kind of strange. There's like 2 of those, I think, the final like 2 weeks.
That's for college football.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm right on board with that. And then the 2 Monday night games are nice if your team's not playing on Monday night. If your team's playing and you got another Monday night game, like they're not bad, but I know last week the one was only just streaming on ESPN Plus, but I don't mind just one Monday night game. I mean, it's
2 is nice because when one's in commercial, you flip to the other, but not if they're on different streaming services and you have to like log in and log out. They've done a horrible job giving some to Amazon, some to Peacock, some to this guy. Everyone's got one night. Like, can we just watch football easily because we like the sport? They make it so hard.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. The streaming services are they're so annoying. I mean, I have ESPN Plus, but it's a pain to, Peacock. I mean, they got the playoff game now on Peacock. I mean, eventually they'll move the Super Bowl to streaming eventually at some point. I wouldn't be shocked, but it's, the streaming stuff I'm not a huge fan of. But CBS got Spiro Ditas, Marchelletta on the call. So look forward to that. And we will catch you guys later in the week here. A lot more content coming your way before this matchup. And again, beyond your podcast tomorrow. So looking forward to that. If you're watching this, definitely check that out. 7 Eastern Friday night. And until next time, JETS, Jets. Appreciate you all tuning in. Talk to you soon.